Hey, what's up? I'm Fanboy Philly, and welcome back once again to Fanboy Philly Reviews. Today I've decided to do an old movie. Old as in made in 1980, and even though I was 7 years old when it came out, I've never seen the movie before. Mainly because I was never really big into horror films. But with this show, I'm trying to review as many kinds of movies as I can, many different genres, including horror movies, especially now that we're in October. Both my sons have wanted me to do some horror as they are both big, huge horror fans. And I've chosen to watch and review Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Stephen King's The Shining. I know I'm late to the party on this one, but I've chosen this because I'm going to follow it up with Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. So here we go. Jack Nicholson plays Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, a hotel in Colorado that closes for the winter. He and his wife Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, and their son Danny, played by Danny Lloyd, moved to live in the hotel where it will be just the three of them living for the whole winter. We learn early on that Danny has an imaginary friend, Tony, who tells him things and predicts that Jack would get the job moments before he calls to say he got the job. We also learn that Jack has a history of alcohol issues and that he had hurt Danny in the past. As the family arrives at the hotel, they meet the management, including head chef Dick Halloran, who we find out is like Danny and can see things. He explains to Danny about their abilities and calls it the Shining, and that they can see the remnants of things that have happened. And as Danny asks him about room 237, he warns Danny never to go into room 237. Stay away from room 237. As we go through the movie, we see Jack become more and more distant and become irritable and drawn closer and closer to insanity. He becomes more angry with Wendy more and more. He begins seeing people that aren't there, including Grady, the previous caretaker who murdered his wife and daughters. We also see Wendy get more fearful of Jack and even more protective of Danny. Danny is eventually drawn to room 237 and is attacked by something. He goes into shock, and he says that he was attacked by a mysterious woman in the room. Wendy starts beginning to think that Jack was the one who attacked Danny. After this, Tony becomes the dominant personality in order to protect Danny. Wendy demands that they leave the hotel, beginning a huge confrontation with Jack. This starts the fighting to escalate throughout the movie and chasing throughout the hotel. The story of this movie had its ups and downs for me. It starts to draw you in, but so much of the movie is never explained. So I spent a lot of time trying to wonder what was going on, which became very distracting. The strongest part of the movie, by far, is the performances put on by the three main actors. Jack Nicholson is one of the darkest actors of our time. I consider him on the same level as Christopher Lee, Jack Palance, and Vincent Price. You can see the darkness of the character in his eyes and the switch between a normal person and the psychotic. In this performance, you could see how he would later become the Joker. Shelley Duvall played Wendy as the ever-loving mother to Danny, very concerned for his safety. She started out as a loving wife, moving to the threatened protective mother. You could see the fear in her eyes with every confrontation with Jack. The best performance by far was that of Danny Lloyd. For a child as young as he was, his character work was phenomenal. Not just for a child actor, but for an actor of any age. From playing seemingly catatonic scenes, to showing terror when he sees something, to when he switches back and forth between Danny and Tony. For a child of 6 or 7, however old he was so amazing, it was hard to believe he was that young. As I mentioned before, a lot of the story is unexplained, and that weakened my impression of the movie. I like to know the reason why. And when I was talking to my son about all of this, he said, it's Kubrick. He's different. I started going back in my memory to past experiences of Stephen King books and movies that I have seen or read. And I started thinking about It, which I first became aware of when I saw the TV movie when it first aired. At the end of The Shining, we are shown a picture from 1921 showing Jack front and center at the party. Earlier, he is told by Grady that they had always been there. When you go back to It, Pennywise would always come back every 27 years. Do Jack and Grady take turns reincarnating and reliving their lives at the hotel? Is that what makes them become the way they do? And also, is Jack shining? Is that why he's seeing stuff? Is he like Danny and Halloran? You have to wonder about that. I think he is. Maybe some of this will be explained in Dr. Sleep. We'll see, as that will be my next stop, which in itself is making me more interested in watching that movie. Overall, I wasn't really a huge fan of this movie, but because of the performances, I do have a new appreciation for it. Thank you again for joining me. And remember, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that like button, as well as ring the bell to be notified whenever a new video hits. Come back and join me next time on Fanboy Fiddler Reviews. Until then, take care of yourselves and be good to those you love. I'll catch you later.